Holy data, Batman, we actually have an opportunity to make some pretty good change. We are going to cover this very briefly, but this is data that we are being provided by user PDWP90. So if you guys are not aware of who this person is, they are the founder of Quiver Quantitative. There's no relation to this channel or this video, but he is going to try and provide you some of this data that he's been scraping for over a year to make it freely available to everyone. And now let's just give a quick overview of the dashboard here. We have ridiculous amounts of information that we can walk through just for GME, right? You can do this for almost any single ticker, and I'm going to leave this in the description down below, but you can take a look at all of these different metrics for different tickers, like political beta. We have insider trading, we have Senate trading, so looking at the publicly available data that the senators have done before. One of the more interesting pieces is that we have only one senator that has purchased during the RIP, the January squeeze. And if we look over at GameStop, Pat Toomey bought GameStop at on January 27th. So let's look at 27th. We have it's right above my head in tiny green text, but a low of 249 and a high of 380. So you could have bought anywhere between that $140 range. But then the next day, where he sold on the 28th, had a high of 483. So you could have been making some mad bank, or a low of 112. So either way, he paper-handed. But did he make a profit or did he make a loss? Drop what you think in the comments down below, because that's a very funny fact that Pat Toomey is the only congressman that bought in during the squeeze. Let's see whether or not he turned a profit on that. We also have Twitter sentiment down here. So this is just, Twitter volume of exactly how many mentions we have on Twitter. As it turns out, January was not the peak of it. People just keep talking about GameStop nonstop, and it has actually peaked around in April. And then there's also followers on the company's Twitter account by day. So if you go all the way back down to pre-2021, there was only 24,000 followers. You can actually go up and track how many of those 6,000 followers actually started joining because of this craze. And then finally, about how often is it mentioned on Wall Street Bets. So speaking of Wall Street Bets, we know that Swaggy Stocks is one of the best indicators that we use to be able to actually tell us about the sentiment analysis for GME. So we can use Swaggy Stocks in conjunction here. Let's look at GME briefly. Swaggy Stocks only gives us the last 30 days. So we see GME sentiment tracking downward in relation to the price. However, this is actually a slightly different narrative than Quiver Quantitative tells. So here is the sentiment for GME on Wall Street Bets as a relation to the price. As a relation to the comments on it. So the number of comments here is the bar graph, and the way of sentiment here, right? We have a lot of people in January during the squeeze lose their sentiment entirely over the amount of negative sentiment, and the comments down here dropping the sentiment from about 0.64 out of 1 down to 0.42. This is kind of like getting a 6-star rating down to a 4-star rating in terms of just how positive you speak of the stock, and then seeing a small rise actually in March that then petered out when the second gamma squeeze happened in the middle of March, and now it is currently actually on a rebound. So will the sentiment for GME rip? Let us continue finding out. Thank you, Henry Schubert, for joining the Mo Monkey gang. And we can even trend it based on the most mentions for other stocks in the last 24 hours. ASO is slowly coming up, and GME is once again taking the lead, but ASO was on the hotspot. So we're going to do an analysis of it quick. If you guys have not seen analyses done live on this channel, it's a good way to join the channel and get started. If you guys have not yet done so, it's a really good way to be able to learn bell to bell the analysis tricks that I do as a data scientist here. Thank you for the coffee. Hector with the coffee in the morning. Oh, that's great. So once again, there's a lot of information here, especially industry baskets, right? We can talk a lot about EVs, cannabis, betting, and crypto on this show. We also have short activity based on here. And I think the most important data that we have to offer here is, let me go here, off exchange activity, right? off exchange activity. This is data that isn't easily seen and but it is publicly available on FINRA. So this is something that we've seen before, right? There are both dark pool and non-dark pool, ATS and non-ATS off-exchange activities. Here we are seeing that yesterday 5 million shares of GME were traded off-exchange, and 2.5 million of those shares were sold short, giving GME a DPI of approximately 0.48. Below is a graph of cumulative net off-exchange short volume since 2010. So we are looking at closer to when as it goes higher and higher, right? We have net OTC short volume in the 200 millions in the middle of 2020. And now that 2021 has come around, we are seeing a gradual rise of off-exchange short volume, which once again explains where all that short volume is coming from. Where are all these shorts coming from that we cannot see? When we have GME have less than 6 million volume on the day on the normal exchanges, this is where 5 million, almost 100% of the volume that we saw on the light exchanges in the off exchanges here. So if you guys like that data, please do check it out in the description down below. And once again, data is king. So if you guys want to continue following on this channel and learning with us, we're going to be diving through some of this data, looking at your favorite congressman. That is a fun one. You can look at your senators and your the trading performance of your senators, not based on GME or anything, but just look at how Ted Cruz is a little bit like wibbly wobbly, and then for example, Pat Toomey, the one that bought in on GME and then paper handed. We don't see his January performance, but it seems like he's a pretty stable investor. Interesting that he decided to go in on GME. Maybe this is once in a lifetime opportunity for him to try to jump in. And then finally, we have people like Mitch McConnell having a declining portfolio. So maybe he's invested in old money, and now the old money that is probably in like pandemic non-resistant stocks are now trending downwards. If you wanted to compare your own portfolio with these senators or congressmen, this is a great way to be able to check it out as well. So once again, thank you guys. Big praise to these people that make the show possible, because they pressed the join button or went down to the Patreon link and supported me there. And we'll see all of you in the money. Peace. So that is that source. Okay, let's keep learning. So we are gonna say goodbye to Quiver Quant. Very cool to have that level of transparency though. So